My nephew threw my birthday cake on the floor and said that dogs eat off the ground. I was shocked, and when I thought someone would defend me, I was left speechless. I stepped off the airport shuttle with Dubai lavender still clinging to my uniform and 2 duty-free bags of chocolates I'd bought specifically for today. My birthday. 48 hours of rest before the next international rotation, and I'd planned to spend them with family, eating cake and pretending the last 6 months of flying hadn't left me hollow. The house smelled like buttercream and my mother's perfume. 23 people crammed into the living room. Cousins I hadn't seen since Christmas. Aunts who always asked when I'd settled down. My brother holding his 5-year-old son like a trophy. I set the chocolates on the kitchen counter next to the expensive cake I'd ordered myself, paid for myself, picked up myself on the way from the airport. "There she is," my mother announced, not looking up from her phone. The world traveler. My brother laughed. He was always laughing, that easy charm that made everyone forget he was 32 and living in our parents' basement. "How's the sky life, sis?" "Exhausting," I said, which was true. I'd spent the last week doing turnarounds between continents, sleeping 4 hours between shifts. My body clock shattered across 7 time zones. The party moved like these things do. Cake came out, candles lit, everyone sang while I stood there feeling older than 40 should feel. I cut slices, passed plates, watched my brother take 3 pieces without asking if anyone else wanted seconds. That's when his son grabbed his slice and walked toward me with that particular determination 5-year-olds get when they've decided something is funny. He stopped directly in front of me, looked up, smiled. Then he flipped the plate. The cake landed frosting down on the hardwood floor I'd helped refinish 2 years ago, splattering buttercream across my boots. "Dogs eat off the ground," he said, clear as day, practiced. "Eat it." The room went silent in that terrible way where everyone hears but no reacts. I looked at my brother, waiting for the correction, the apology, anything. He was grinning, phone out, filming. "Come on," he said to his son, encouraging. "Tell her again. Dogs eat off the ground." The kid was delighted now, bouncing. I waited. Surely someone would say something. My mother, who lectured me about respect since I was old enough to talk. My father, who claimed family meant protecting each other. The aunts, the cousins, anyone. They looked at their plates, at their phones, anywhere but at me, standing there with frosting on my uniform boots and my birthday cake smashed on the floor. "That's just kids being kids," my mother finally said, waving her hand dismissively. "Don't be so sensitive." My brother was still filming, smirking, and that's when I understood. This wasn't an accident. This was a test, a performance, a reminder of exactly where I stood in this family's hierarchy. The dependable one, the responsible one, the one who takes it and doesn't complain because family is family and you don't make waves. I got paper towels. Bent down while they all watched, my knees cracking from too many hours standing in airplane aisles. Wiped buttercream off hardwood while my brother showed the video to my father, both of them chuckling. The kid was already asking for more cake, my slice apparently, since mine was on the floor. 20 minutes later, I was in my car, cake residue dried sticky in the treads of my boots. My phone started buzzing before I even reached the highway. My mother's name flashed across the screen, then my brother's, then my mother's again. I drove back to my small apartment in the city, the one I barely saw because I was always somewhere over the Atlantic or Pacific, sleeping in hotels that weren't home. I showered, made instant noodles, sat on my couch in the silence that felt different than it had that morning. My phone lit up one more time. My mother. I opened it. The message was formal, cold, typed with the precision of someone who'd been planning it. They were cutting contact. I was to stay away from the family permanently. The words "forever" and "don't contact us again" appeared multiple times, emphasized final. Below it, my brother had reacted with a heart emoji. I stared at that heart for a long time. The approval, the agreement. They'd discussed this, decided together, probably while I was wiping cake off their floor. I typed 7 different responses, deleted them all, finally sent one sentence. "I'm removing my name from all the loans tomorrow." The response was immediate. 53 missed calls in 10 minutes. Text messages flooding in, all saying the same thing in different words. "Wait, let's talk. Don't be hasty. We can work this out." I put the phone face down on the coffee table and went to bed. For the first time in 6 years, I fell asleep without the weight of their financial emergencies pressing against my chest like a passenger's bag in an overhead compartment, packed too full, ready to fall. The calls kept coming through the night. I watched my phone light up on the nightstand like a distress beacon, counting each buzz against the ceiling. By morning, my voicemail was full. 17 messages from my mother, each escalating from confusion to anger to threats about credit scores being tied together. I made coffee and sat at my kitchen table with the worn leather notebook where I'd been tracking everything for 4 years. Every loan, every payment, every broken promise. Pages filled with dates written in airport lounges across 3 continents. Careful records of money flowing one direction. My brother's car loan. Co-signed when I was 26, fresh into international routes, still believing helping family made you good. Monthly payments auto-drafted from my account because his credit wasn't quite there yet. The business credit card for his food truck venture that lasted 6 months before he moved to the next thing. Balance at $11,000, minimum payments eating my paycheck while he posted about cryptocurrency investments. The store credit card for a television I'd never seen, purchased for the family room I was never invited to unless they needed something. 3 loans, total monthly obligation of $1,400. None of which I'd ever used or wanted beyond that first desperate call where, just this once, became 6 years of my signature on their mistakes. At 8:45, I called my credit card company. The representative's voice was careful, professional, told me she'd heard this before. The primary account holder will need to qualify independently, she said. If he can't, the account closes and the balance becomes his responsibility. Your credit takes a hit from closure, but you're released from future liability. How long does he have? 30 days to provide proof of income and pass a credit check. The car loan was harder. Secured debt, but they could remove me as co-signer if my brother could prove he could handle payments alone. Does he have stable employment? The loan officer asked. I laughed, surprising myself. No. Then he'll need a new co-signer, return the vehicle, or face repossession. That's his problem, I said and meant it. 3 hours of calls. By lunch, I'd initiated removal on 2 accounts and scheduled a bank appointment for the 3rd. My phone vibrated constantly, moving across the table from the percussion. My mother. How could you do this to your brother? My brother. You're really gonna screw me over like this? My mother again. After everything we've done for you. That one stopped me. Everything they'd done for me. I scrolled through years of conversations, looking for this mysterious debt. Found my name on their emergency contacts, my money funding their emergencies, my credit propping up their lifestyle. Found myself bringing gifts every visit while they showed up empty-handed. Found myself fixing broken things, organizing parties, being reliable. Always reliable. Found nothing they'd actually done except expect me to keep doing things for them. I typed carefully. I'm following through. The bank appointments are scheduled. This is not a discussion. My brother called immediately. I let it ring. 3 more times. On the 4th, I answered. You can't do this, he said, no greeting. The car payment is due in 6 days. Then you should pay it. With what money? You know I'm between projects. You've been between projects for 6 years. Get a job. Easy for you to say, flying around the world on vacation? I close my eyes. It's not vacation. It's work. Whatever. Just give me 6 months. I'll start paying you back, I promise. You've promised before. This time is different. It's always different. And it's always the same. I'm done. Mom's right about you. His voice shifted to something uglier. You think you're better than us. I think I'm tired of funding your life while you film your son humiliating me. Silence. Then, he's just a kid. You told him to do it. I heard you. God, you're so sensitive. It was funny. It wasn't funny. It was cruel, and you filmed it. Keep your money. We don't need you anyway. He hung up. I sat there shaking slightly, surprised by my anger and the relief underneath it. Relief of finally saying it, naming what had been obvious. They used me because I let them, and the moment I stopped, I became the villain. My father texted an hour later. Let's talk soon. 3 words. I read them twice, looking for manipulation. The plea for my brother, the guilt trip. Found nothing except 3 words that felt almost careful. Almost kind. I didn't respond yet. Needed time to believe it might be real. That night, I sat with my window open, listening to city sounds that had become more familiar than my family's voices. In 12 hours, I'd be back at the airport, back to service carts and safety demonstrations and 30,000 feet between me and all of this. For the first time in years, I was looking forward to it. The first time started small, the way these things always do. I was 26, 3 years into international routes, in a Miami hotel between shifts when my mother called. Your brother needs help with a car, she said, casual as asking for milk. His died, and he needs one for the delivery job. Can't he get his own loan? His credit isn't quite there yet. You know how he is, trying to find himself. She said it fondly, like his inability to hold a job past 4 months was endearing. You have stable career, good credit, just your name on paperwork. He'll make all the payments. I should have said no, should have recognized the pattern, but I was tired, 6 time zones from thinking clearly, and she had that tone-making refusal seem selfish. How much? 15,000. He already found the perfect car. Perfect for him. I never saw it until months later. Already dented in our parents' driveway. I signed electronically from London, barely reading, trusting that family meant trust. The first payment came from my account, and the second, and third. When I asked him about it, he was waiting for his first paycheck. Then the job fell through, then unexpected expenses. Then definitely next month. Next month never came. A year later, Tokyo. She called again. My brother wanted to start a food truck business. Partner, business plan, the whole thing mapped out. He just needed a business credit card for initial inventory. Why can't he get his own? The business is too new. Banks won't approve him without someone established. Temporary, just until it gets going. You're doing so well, and this could really be his thing. The thing that finally works. She always said that. The thing that finally works. As if his previous failures hadn't become my problem. I signed again. Told myself I was being a good sister. The food truck lasted 6 months. Card balance was 11,000 when he quit, blaming the partner, the location, the equipment. Never his fault. Minimum payments started auto-drafting. I set them up after the second missed payment triggered late fees and calls during a Dubai layover. By 30, my name was attached to 3 financial obligations I'd never wanted. The third was stupidest. A store credit card for a television. My mother called while I shopped in Singapore, exhausted from double shifts. We're upgrading the family room TV. Your brother found a deal but needs someone to put it on a store card. 0 interest for 18 months. Why my card? Because you're the only one who qualifies. It's for the family, for all of us to enjoy. Except I was never there. I was flying routes, living from hotels while they watched a television I paid for. I should have stopped after the first one. Should have seen what they were building. This structure where I was the foundation holding up their weight. But they had a way of asking, making it seem temporary, necessary, about love rather than money, and I didn't know how to say no to family. Your credit score is so much better became code for, you're useful and we need you. I was the responsible one. The fixer. They positioned it as compliment, being relied on, but trust looked a lot like being used when it only went one direction. Between loans, I kept flying. 6 days on, 2 off. Beijing, Paris, Dubai, London. I collected hotel points I never used and brought duty-free gifts from places they'd never visit. My brother showed up to dinners empty-handed, late, sometimes not at all. But when he came, he was the entertainment, the charismatic one with stories that weren't even half true. I fixed the sink when it leaked, changed locks when keys went missing, organized parties, and cleaned up after. I provided while he performed, and somehow he was celebrated. At family gatherings, he'd tell elaborate stories about business ventures like they were successes, rather than failures funded by my credit. My mother would beam at him, her golden boy, always trying, always dreaming. When I talked about my work, she'd scroll through her phone or check on something in the kitchen. The only time I got their full attention was needing something. Another signature, another favor, another problem only my credit score could solve. Then suddenly I was important, valued, the daughter they were proud of for being responsible and family-oriented. His son was born during one of these crises. Food truck had just failed and he needed money for baby supplies. I held the infant in the hospital while my brother filmed everything for social media, building his narrative as dedicated father. The baby was soft and small and innocent. I bought him a teddy bear from the gift shop, $40. That teddy bear sat in the nursery they set up in my parents' basement, where my brother lived rent-free while I paid his car payment from Amsterdam hotels. I'd look at photos they posted, the baby in his crib surrounded by toys, and wonder if anyone noticed I was the only one actually providing for him, while his father posed for photos and planned his next failed venture. The pattern was set. I was the mule, silent and dependable, carrying weight no one else wanted to carry. And they were content to let me as long as I didn't complain, didn't ask for reciprocation, didn't expect to be anything more than useful. I started keeping the notebook after the third loan, when I couldn't track it all in my head anymore between time zones and exhaustion. A small leather journal I bought in a Florence airport, the kind with a strap that wrapped around. First entry was simple. Car loan, 15,000. Monthly, 342. Brother responsible. Never paid. Business credit card, 11,000 balance. Minimum, 250. Business failed. Brother moved on. Television, 4,000. Monthly, $89. For family room, I'm never in. Total, $1,432. Every month. For things I didn't want, didn't use, didn't benefit from. Nearly a third of my take-home pay disappeared into accounts I'd signed from guilt and exhaustion. I tracked every promise, too. The notebook became a record of broken words, written in hotel lounges across continents. Miami, March 2019. Mom called. Brother promises to start paying car loan next month. Tokyo, April 2019. Delivery job fell through. We'll start paying when next opportunity comes. Paris, September 2019. Food truck taking off. He'll pay back everything once cash flow stabilizes. Dubai, February 2020. Food truck closed. Starting new venture. Can't pay anything now. London, July 2020. Needs money for baby supplies. Will definitely reimburse with tax return. Amsterdam, April 2021. No tax return mentioned. When I brought it up, mother said I was being petty about money when there's a baby involved. Temporary appeared 47 times in my notes over 4 years. Just this once appeared 31 times. I promise appeared 62 times. Not one promise kept. I calculated what I'd lost. Not just monthly payments, but late fees when I couldn't pay from overseas. Interest accruing because I could only afford minimums. Opportunities missed because my credit was maxed with their debt. $28,000 over 4 years. More than my savings. More than I'd spent on myself. $28,000 that could have been a house down payment, a degree, travel to places I wanted rather than airports I had to be in. Small humiliations tracked alongside the money. I recorded those too, needing proof it wasn't just in my head. December 2019, brought Swiss chocolates. Brother arrived with nothing, ate half the box. May 2020, fixed parents leaking faucet during layover. $60 in parts, 2 hours work. Mother thanked me by asking if I could also look at the door hinge. September 2020, organized nephew's first birthday. Bought decorations, cake, coordinated family. Brother showed up an hour late, took credit and photos. February 2021, called to say happy birthday to mother. She was distracted, said she'd call back. Never did. Brother's birthday the next week got a party. June 2021, mentioned feeling burnt out from work. Mother changed subject to brother's new business idea. Each entry stung to write, but seeing them accumulated proved something important. This wasn't occasional bad luck or family helping family. This was a system, carefully maintained, where I was useful but not valued, needed but not appreciated. The breaking point came in small doses. A Singapore hotel where I calculated I'd worked an extra 150 hours that year just to cover their debts. A Rome layover where I wanted to see the Colosseum but couldn't afford it because the credit card payment was due. A call from my brother at 3 a.m. my time demanding I fix a car loan problem because he'd missed another payment. I started imagining life without the anchor of their needs. Savings that actually grew. Retirement contributions that weren't immediately needed for someone else's emergency. The ability to say yes when crew asked if I wanted to explore a city instead of stressing about which bill I couldn't pay. But every time I thought about confronting them, my mother's voice appeared in my head. Family helps family. You're the successful one. Don't be selfish. They need you. Except needing me looked identical to using me, and I was starting to recognize the difference. The notebook went everywhere. In my carry-on through security, in hotel nightstands, in my lap during flights when I couldn't sleep. I'd flip through pages and feel something hardening inside me, some understanding that had been soft, becoming solid and clear. This wasn't love. Love didn't keep such careful track of what was owed, didn't promise and break and promise again. Love didn't make you feel guilty for having boundaries. Love didn't film you being humiliated and call it funny. The last entry before everything changed was simple, written the night before my birthday. I can't do this anymore. Something has to change. Either them or me. And it won't be them. I didn't know how right I'd be. The small indignities were worse than the money, somehow. Money was quantifiable, trackable. But the casual disrespect, the thoughtless taking, the way they treated my effort like it was expected rather than generous, that hollowed me out in ways a bank balance couldn't capture. My laptop went missing from my old bedroom. I'd left it during a 3-week Asia rotation, and when I came back, it was gone. My brother had borrowed it for a project. When I got it back 2 weeks later, half the keys stuck and the screen had a cracked spider webbing from the corner. It was like that when I got it, he said, not looking up from his phone. No, it wasn't. I've had that laptop for 4 years. My mother sighed from the kitchen. Things break. At least he returned it. At least he returned it. That was the standard. Not that he shouldn't have taken it, damaged it, or lied. Just that he gave it back eventually, and I should be grateful for that bare minimum. Holiday gatherings were performances where I played supporting cast. I'd arrive with expensive European chocolates, boxes carefully carried through customs. My brother showed up 3 hours late with nothing, and somehow still was the star. He'd tell stories about his latest venture, embellishing until they sounded successful. And my mother hung on every word. When I talked about work, about emergency landings I'd helped manage, she'd glance at her phone. That's nice. Pass the rolls? They wanted my money, but not my stories. Wanted my help, but not my presence. I was most valuable when useful and least interesting when just myself. The jokes started small but accumulated. About my spreadsheets, my budgeting, how I was always working. My mother would laugh, saying I got it from my father's side, like being responsible was a genetic flaw. My brother made comments about my fancy flight attendant life, as if I was on vacation rather than working 12-hour shifts. Must be nice, he'd say, getting paid to travel. Must be nice, I'd think, but never say. Living rent-free while I pay your car note. Equipment I loaned came back broken. A portable charger returned dead with cracked case. My good luggage borrowed returned with broken wheel and mysterious stains. My winter coat taken without asking, returned smelling like cigarettes. When I mentioned it, I was being petty, making a big deal out of nothing. Why was I so focused on material possessions? Material possessions I'd worked for and paid for, being destroyed by someone who treated them like they were disposable because they hadn't cost him anything. The worst was credit card fraud. Mid-flight over the Atlantic when alerts started coming. Charges at restaurants, gas stations, and electronics store. My brother had gotten my card number, probably from my wallet in my room, and used it for a weekend of spending. When I confronted him, he laughed. I was going to pay you back. It was an emergency. What emergency requires $200 at a restaurant? I had people over. Business contacts, networking. You wouldn't understand. I understood perfectly. My money was always available for his emergencies, his businesses, his networking, his life, and my actual emergencies. The exhaustion and stress and financial burden, those didn't count because I had a steady job and should just handle it quietly. My nephew was born into this dynamic. A beautiful baby I held in the hospital while his father posed for photos, who I bought gifts for from airports worldwide, who I loved despite everything. But even that love was weaponized. Don't you want to see him grow up? My mother would ask when I hesitated about signing for something else. Family is important. He should know his aunt cares. As if caring could only be measured in co-signed loans. As if love required debt. I'd watch my brother parent through a phone screen, filming everything for social media, building a narrative of involved fatherhood while my mother watched the baby and I paid for the car. The performance mattered more than reality, and I was tired of being the one who made reality possible so he could perform. The last gathering before my birthday, I brought expensive pastry from a Paris bakery, the kind that took me an hour to find because I'd wanted something special. My brother ate 3 pieces, then wrapped up the rest to take home. When I pointed out I'd brought it for everyone, he shrugged. There's plenty, don't be selfish. I stood there with frosting residue on the plate, watching him load a container with what I'd carried across an ocean, and something shifted. Not broke, not yet. Just shifted, like tectonic plates moving before an earthquake. That night, I added a new page to my notebook, not tracking money or promises this time. Just one question, written in careful handwriting. When did I become the person they could treat this way? The answer came at my birthday party, in frosting on hardwood floors and a 5-year-old saying, "Dogs eat off the ground," while his father filmed and laughed. Flying taught me to recognize warning signs, a slight vibration before turbulence hits. The way passengers shift before someone gets sick. The particular tone in a pilot's voice that means something's wrong even when words sound calm. I'd been ignoring warning signs with my family for years. Or maybe just hoping they'd resolve themselves if I was patient enough, accommodating enough, useful enough. The way you hope turbulence will pass if you just wait it out. But the birthday incident wasn't turbulence. It was the alarm bell, the emergency light. The moment when you realize waiting isn't going to solve anything. I'd spent the day after cleaning buttercream from boot treads, making bank calls, trying to understand how I'd let it get this bad. Not just the money, the whole thing. The entire structure where I gave and they took, and somehow I was supposed to be grateful for the opportunity to be useful. My mother's message arrived like a formal notice. No hey or can we talk. Just, we've decided it's best if you stay away from the family. Permanently. Don't contact us again. Below it, my brother's heart reaction. Not accidental. Deliberate approval of my banishment. They'd discussed it, agreed, coordinated it, probably while I was wiping cake off their floor. I read it 3 times, looking for something I'd missed, some indication of my crime, what I'd done wrong, but there was nothing except the implication that existing, that having boundaries, that daring to be humiliated and show it, was offense enough. They'd decided I was the problem. Not the financial exploitation, not the casual cruelty, not filming a child humiliating an adult. Me, for being sensitive, for not laughing along. The irony was sharp. They were kicking me out for not being grateful enough for the privilege of being used. I sent the message about removing my name from loans without really thinking it through. It wasn't planned, wasn't strategic. It was just the only power I had left. If they didn't want me in the family, they didn't get my credit score either. The response was immediate. 53 calls in 10 minutes. Text messages flooding with increasing desperation. Suddenly, I was family again. Suddenly, my presence mattered. Suddenly, they wanted to talk, to work it out. But the solution was always the same. Me, silent and funding their lives, accepting whatever treatment they felt like dishing out. I'd learned about emergency protocols during training. When oxygen masks drop, you put yours on first. Not because you're selfish. Because you can't help anyone if you're unconscious. You can't save anyone if you're dying. I'd been suffocating for 6 years, and they'd been content to let me as long as my credit score stayed good. That night, I sat in my apartment and felt weight lifting. Not all at once. Just gradually, like ascending after a deep dive. Pressure releasing until you can breathe normally again. My phone kept buzzing. My mother's name flashing over and over. My brother calling from different numbers. But I didn't answer. Didn't read messages. Just watched them accumulate like flight delay notices. Proof I'd finally done something they couldn't ignore. In the morning, I had a rotation to Hong Kong. 6 days away. 6 days where distance wasn't just physical, but permanent. My choice rather than my schedule. I packed with the same efficiency, but everything felt different. Lighter. My uniform still smelled like Dubai lavender, but the scent didn't make me homesick anymore. Hotels had always been more home than the house where I grew up. At least hotels were honest about the transaction. You paid for a room, you got a room. No one pretended it was about love. On the shuttle to the airport, I checked my bank account. The automatic payments were still scheduled. $1,432. Still obligated, still draining. But in 30 days, if my brother couldn't qualify on his own, it would end. And if he could qualify, then he never needed me in the first place. The cosigner was always just insurance, a safety net. And I was tired of being the net. A colleague asked if I was okay. I must have looked different somehow. Maybe lighter. Maybe just less burdened. I'm good, I said, and meant it. For the first time in 6 years, when someone asked if I was okay, the answer was actually yes. The plane took off into morning light, climbing steadily. I watched the city shrink below, everything getting smaller and more distant. From this height, you couldn't see details. Couldn't see people or problems or pain, just the general shape of things. The big picture where none of it mattered as much. I'd spent years at this altitude, seeing perspective people below didn't have. And somehow I'd forgotten to apply that perspective to my own life. Forgot that, from up here, their problems looked smaller, manageable, things they could solve themselves if they had to, things they would solve themselves now, because I wasn't going to be their solution anymore. I arrived at the bank at 8:59 on a Tuesday morning, folder in hand organized with the same precision I used for pre-flight safety checks. Every document in order, every account number highlighted, every policy clause I'd researched in airport lounges during layovers. The specialist who helped me was maybe 50, with reading glasses on a chain and calm demeanor. She looked at my folder, then at me, and something in her expression softened. "Let me guess," she said. "Family loans." "How did you know?" "It's always family loans." "What are we working with?" I laid it out like a briefing. 3 accounts: car loan, business credit card, store card. $1,432 monthly. 6 years of payments, 0 reimbursement. My voice got steadier as I talked. The same tone I used to calm nervous passengers. She listened without interrupting, making notes. When I finished, she looked up. "The business credit card, we can revoke your guarantee and require the primary holder to requalify within 30 days. If he can't provide proof of income and pass a credit check, the account closes and debt becomes his exclusively. And my credit? Takes a hit from closure, but nothing compared to what continued missed payments would do. You'd be released from future liability immediately." Something loosened in my chest. The car loan? Trickier. Secured debt. We can remove you as cosigner, but only if he can refinance in his own name. He'll need to prove he can handle the payment independently. He can't. She didn't look surprised. Then he has 3 options. Find a new cosigner, return the vehicle voluntarily, or face repossession. How long? 30 days from when we notify him. My phone buzzed. My brother's name. 7th call that morning. I flipped it face down. The store card is simplest, she continued. We close it to new charges immediately. You remain liable for what's already owed, but nothing new can be added. So I'm still stuck with part of it. For now. But we can work out a payment plan. And once it's paid off, you're done. No more surprises. She pulled up forms, started typing. I need to ask you something. Are you sure? Because the moment we process this, your family loses their financial safety net. Things are going to get difficult for them. Things have been difficult for me for 6 years. I'm done being the safety net. She nodded, something like approval in her eyes. Good. Then let's get started. The next hour was signing and initialing and dating. Each signature felt significant, like closing a door that had been stuck open. The specialist explained every form, every implication, every timeline. 30 days for requalification, 30 days for car loan resolution, immediate closure of new charges. My phone vibrated continuously. 10 calls, 15, 20. Messages from my mother, my brother, relatives I hadn't talked to in years, suddenly very concerned about family unity. They're panicking, the specialist observed. They should have panicked 6 years ago when they asked me to co-sign the first loan. We processed the credit card next. She made calls, initiated requalification. I heard her say financial exploitation and felt validated. Someone with authority was confirming what happened to me had a name. It wasn't sensitivity, it was exploitation. The car loan took longer. More forms, more signatures, more calls. But eventually, done. Notification sent. 30-day countdown started. He would have to prove he could handle the payment alone, and we both knew he couldn't. One more thing, the specialist said. You might want to put a fraud alert on your credit report. If they have access to your personal information, they might try to open new accounts. I thought about my brother using my credit card without permission. How do I do that? She wrote down steps, websites, phone numbers. It's free. Makes it harder for anyone to open credit in your name without direct authorization. Just a precaution. Thank you, I said, meaning it. She printed copies of everything, slid them across the desk. You're doing the right thing. I know it doesn't feel like it. Probably feels terrible, actually. But you're doing the right thing. I see people in your situation who wait too long, end up with destroyed credit and no way out. You're stopping it while you still can. I left the bank with my folder heavier but shoulders lighter. Morning sun was bright, almost too bright, and I stood on the sidewalk just breathing. It was done. Not finished. 30 days still had to play out, but initiated. Set in motion. Inevitable now. My phone showed 42 missed calls. I didn't listen to voicemails, didn't read messages, just put it in my bag and walked to my car where I sat for 5 minutes with engine off, feeling like I'd just completed the hardest pre-flight check of my life. Everything was secure now. All exits identified. Safety equipment in place. Ready for takeoff. I drove to my parents' house 2 days later, knowing exactly what I'd find. The driveway was full. My mother's car, my father's truck, my brother's car that I'd been paying for. Even my aunt's sedan, backup, called in. The door opened before I could knock. My mother stood there, arms crossed. Disappointed but not surprised. Everyone's in the living room, she said, no greeting. They were arranged like a tribunal. My mother in her usual chair, my father on the couch looking uncomfortable, my brother next to him, phone in hand, smirking, my aunt on the love seat arm. The nephew was thankfully absent. I stayed standing, didn't take off my jacket, didn't sit down. You need to explain yourself, my mother started. What you're doing to your brother is cruel and vindictive. I'm following bank policies, removing myself from financial obligations I should never have been part of. My brother laughed. We're family. That's what family does. Family doesn't exploit each other for 6 years. Family doesn't film humiliation for entertainment. Family doesn't kick someone out and then panic when they actually leave. Nobody kicked you out, my mother said. We suggested space after you overreacted. You sent a message saying to stay away permanently. My brother reacted with a heart. That's banishment, and I'm following your instructions. My father shifted. Let's all calm down. There's nothing to talk about. The bank processed the removal. He has 30 days to qualify independently. You know I can't do that, my brother said. My credit isn't good enough. I don't have the income. Then you shouldn't have loans requiring someone else's signature. Get a cheaper car, smaller TV, expenses matching your actual income. Easy for you to say. You have a good job, you travel, you make decent money. Some of us are still finding our way. You're 32. How long exactly is finding your way supposed to take? This is exactly what I'm talking about, my mother interrupted. You've always looked down on your brother. I felt something cold settle in my chest. I've never looked down on him. I've carried him. For 6 years, I've carried him financially while he bounced from project to project. I've made his car payments, covered his business debts. Not once has he paid me back or even tried. He has a child to support, my aunt said. You don't understand the pressure. I understand that he lives rent-free in your basement while I pay for his car from hotel rooms. I understand that he films his son humiliating me. I understand that my value to this family is limited to my credit score. No one's exploiting you, my mother said. We asked for help during difficult times. Did you love me when you told me to stay away forever? Or did you only start loving me again when I removed my name from the loans? Silence. My brother looked at his phone. My mother's mouth tightened. My father stared at his hands. You're going to ruin his credit, my mother finally said. His credit is his responsibility. His family is his responsibility. I'm done being responsible for his choices. My brother stood up, face red. You're being a selfish bitch. I'm going to make you handle your own responsibilities. Get a stable job, budget properly, make payments on time, all the things I've been doing while you've been performing fatherhood for Instagram. How dare you, my mother said. He's a good father. He's a father who teaches his son that humiliating family members is entertainment, who uses his child as leverage to keep me trapped, who takes without ever asking what it costs me. If you walk out that door, my mother said, standing, voice shaking, don't bother coming back. I looked at her, at my brother, at my aunt nodding along, at my father, silent, unwilling to defend me. I'm just following your instructions. You told me to stay away forever. I'm staying away. The only difference is you don't get my credit score too. You'll regret this, my brother said. You'll be alone. I've been alone for 6 years while you all took from me. At least now I'm alone with my own money. I walked to the door. My mother called after me, something about understanding when I was older, but I was already outside, breathing clear air. My father followed me to the driveway, stood awkwardly, hands in pockets. Your mother's upset, he said. Your mother, not our mother. She'll calm down. I don't care if she calms down. I'm done. He nodded slowly. The boy shouldn't have done that. At your party. No, he shouldn't have. But he learned it from his father, and nobody stopped him because nobody ever stops anything in this family except me. They matter, he said quietly. Your feelings. To me. They've always mattered. Not enough to defend me. Not enough to tell her she was wrong. Not enough to stop him from using me. No, he admitted. Not enough. I got in my car. He stood watching as I backed out, past all their vehicles, onto the street leading away from the house where I'd grown up learning that love meant sacrifice, and sacrifice meant silence. I drove back to my apartment and didn't cry. Just felt lighter, the way you do when you put down something heavy you've been carrying too long. The first week was paperwork and silence. I spent layovers in airport cafes changing passwords, reviewing credit reports between flights, scanning documents, and uploading them to secure storage. The mechanical process of protecting myself from people who were supposed to protect me. I flew Singapore, then Dubai, then London. Each city felt cleaner somehow. Hotel rooms more welcoming without constant vibration of family emergencies through my phone. I still got messages, dozens, but they arrived to a device I'd started leaving face down. My mother sent paragraphs, long rambling texts about wolves and packs, loyalty and blood, how family doesn't abandon family. I read them in a Singapore hotel overlooking the city and felt nothing but tired recognition. She'd constructed an entire metaphor system around my obligation to them. I responded from a Paris cafe, 2 lines. Love shouldn't require debt. Family shouldn't feel like servitude. 23 messages came back about sacrifice, about how she'd given up everything, about how selfish my generation had become. I watched them stack up, didn't read past the first sentence of each. My brother sent screenshots. Bank notifications, payment due dates, his credit score dropping, each with demands, fix this, call them back, you're ruining my life. I responded once from Tokyo. Get a job, any job, pay your own bills. You're a grown man with a child, act like it. The backlash was immediate. Voice messages calling me things I deleted without fully listening to. Threats about telling everyone what a terrible person I was, as if everyone didn't already know. Then came manipulation. Photos of my nephew, carefully selected to look sad. Captions like, asking where his aunt is and doesn't understand why family is mad. My brother was always good at performance, and his son was now a prop. I looked at those photos in Dubai. This beautiful child being taught that emotional manipulation was how you got what you wanted. I wanted to rescue him from that lesson, but I couldn't rescue someone while drowning myself. I texted back, using your son to guilt me won't work. I hope someday he's old enough to understand the truth without your editing. My father's texts were different, shorter, more careful. How was Singapore? Followed by, stay safe in Dubai. Small check-ins that acknowledged I was a person beyond my utility. I responded equally briefly. Good. Always do. After a week, he sent, I'm proud of you. 3 words that meant more than all my mother's paragraphs. 3 words suggesting he'd been watching, understanding, knowing this needed to happen even if he couldn't say it directly. I saved that message. The only one worth keeping. Between flights, I met with a financial advisor. Not because I needed help, but because I needed someone to tell me this was real. That removing myself from their debts was possible. She reviewed everything with professional detachment. You did this exactly right. Another year and your credit would have been permanently damaged. As it is, you'll take a hit from closures. But you'll recover within 18 months. And you'll be free. Free! The word sounded foreign. I'd been tethered so long that freedom felt like falling, but also lighter. The bank called during a sole layover. My brother had failed requalification for the business credit card. Insufficient income. No stable employment. The account was being closed, balance transferred to his responsibility exclusively. My name was officially removed. 1 down, 2 to go. I celebrated by buying myself dinner at the hotel restaurant instead of room service. Sat alone with good wine and pasta that cost more than I'd normally spend. Toasted silently to the first crack in the wall. My phone buzzed. My brother. 18 missed calls. Voicemails I didn't listen to. Messages demanding I fix it. Call the bank. Co-sign something else. I blocked his number. Just did it. Held my phone and hit block and felt another piece of weight lift. My mother's next text asked why I wasn't responding to my brother. I blocked her too. The silence was immediate and profound. No more buzzing, no more notifications. Just me in a Seoul hotel restaurant, eating pasta and drinking wine and breathing without constant weight of their expectations. My father's text came through the next morning. He wasn't blocked yet. They're asking me to convince you to call them. I told them you're an adult making your own choices. Thought you should know. I stared at that message for a long time. It wasn't much. It wasn't defending me in the moment, wasn't stopping the exploitation before it started, but it was something. A small recognition that I had the right to my own decisions. I typed and deleted 3 responses before settling on, thank you. The week ended with another flight to Amsterdam. I'd been based out of my small apartment for 6 years, and suddenly it felt like maybe I could actually live there. Buy plants, hang pictures, stop treating it like storage between flights, and start treating it like home. I opened my notebook during the flight, the leather journal where I'd tracked all their broken promises, flipped past pages of exploitation, and found a blank one near the back, started a new list. Not what they'd taken, but what I'd reclaimed. Week 1, removed from business credit card. Brother's number blocked. First dinner alone that felt like celebration instead of isolation. It wasn't much, but it was a start. The pressure came in waves, each testing different vulnerabilities. My mother had unblocked herself somehow, or gotten a new number. Messages arrived about sacrifice and blood, about wolves who abandoned the pack dying alone, forwarded articles about adult children who regretted cutting off parents. I read them on a flight to Paris, watching sunrise over the Atlantic. Love shouldn't require manipulation, I typed back. Then blocked the new number. She tried email next. Long formatted messages with biblical quotes and memes about forgiveness. I marked them as spam. My brother took a different approach. He showed up at my apartment during a rare home week, somehow passed building security. I heard him pounding on my door, shouting that I was ruining his life, that his son was asking questions he didn't know how to answer. I stood on the other side with my hand on the deadbolt chain, listening to him deteriorate from anger to pleading to threats. Didn't open it. Just waited for him to exhaust himself and leave. When he finally did, I called building management. My brother is not authorized to visit. If he shows up again, call the police. 2 days later, he tried again. Waited by my car in the parking garage. stepped in front of me as I loaded luggage for a Dubai flight. His eyes were red, face unshaven. "Just one more cosign," he said. "A smaller car, cheaper payments. I can handle it this time." "No. Please. They're repossessing the car next week. I need it for work." "What work? You've been between projects for 6 years." "I have interviews lined up. Real jobs. I just need to get there. Take the bus. Get a bike. Figure it out like everyone else does." "You're really going to do this? Let them take my car?" "You're not having nothing. You're having exactly what you've earned. The consequences of your own choices." He switched tactics, voice dropping. "I know you're hurt about the birthday thing. The kid didn't mean anything by it. He understood enough to say exactly what you taught him. And you understood enough to film it and laugh. It was a joke. God, you're so sensitive. I'm done. Done with the jokes, the manipulation, the expectation that I'll keep funding your life." He grabbed my arm. Not hard, not violent, but possessive. Desperate. "You can't just abandon me." I pulled free. "You abandoned me first. 6 years ago when you decided my money was more important than my feelings. When you decided I was a resource instead of a person. I'm not abandoning you. I'm finally leaving a situation where I was never wanted, only needed." "That's not true. We want you. Mom wants you. She wants my credit score." "That's not the same as wanting me." I got in my car. He stood there looking smaller than I'd ever seen him, and I felt nothing. Not satisfaction, not guilt, not anger. Just flat recognition that this person had taken from me for so long that I'd forgotten what it felt like to keep something for myself. The car loan deadline passed while I was over the Pacific. Email came mid-flight. They'd begun repossession procedures. My name was officially removed. He could contest it, but I was no longer liable. 2 down. 1 to go. The store card was simpler. Just paying down the balance, $100 a month until gone. I could have paid it all at once, but the slow process felt right. Like gradually untangling myself from their expectations. My father maintained careful distance. 2-word texts every few days. "Doing okay?" Followed by "take care." Never asking me to fix anything, never pressuring me to reconnect. I started responding with more than monosyllables. Told him about a sunset over Dubai. Sent him a photo of the Eiffel Tower from my hotel window. Small pieces of my life that weren't about them. He responded with, "Glad you're taking time for yourself." It wasn't much, but it was honest. The final attempt came from my aunt, calling from a number I hadn't blocked. "I just wanted to check in. See how you're doing with all this family stress." "I'm fine. Your mother is really struggling. She doesn't understand what she did wrong. Then she's not as perceptive as she thinks. She just wants what's best for your brother. He struggled because everyone enabled him. Because he knew someone would always catch him. I'm not catching him anymore. But what about his son? Don't you care about your nephew?" There it was. The final manipulation. The child as weapon, as bargaining chip, as reason I should sacrifice myself indefinitely. "I care about him a lot," I said. "Which is why I hope someone teaches him that responsibility matters, that actions have consequences, that using people who love you isn't acceptable." His father isn't teaching him that. My aunt was quiet. Then, "You've become very cold. I've become very tired. There's a difference." I hung up. Blocked her number too. The circle of people who could reach me was getting smaller, and I was okay with that. Quality over quantity, honesty over performance, peace over obligation. That night, I sat in my apartment with takeout and silence, scrolling through my notebook, the old entries about broken promises, the new ones about reclaimed autonomy. Added a new entry. Car loan removed, blocked 5 more numbers. Explained to Aunt why enabling isn't love. Ordered Chinese food and ate it without guilt. Progress, measured in small victories and uninterrupted meals. The silence became normal. Not the heavy silence of waiting for the next crisis, but the light silence of actually being alone. I flew my routes without constant vibration of family emergencies. Came home to an apartment that felt more mine with each week. I bought plants, 3 succulents from a shop near my building, small things that didn't need much but made the space feel lived in. Hung photos of places I'd visited, Colosseum and Eiffel Tower and Singapore skyline. My apartment stopped being storage between flights and started being home. The store card balance decreased steadily. 4,000 became 3,500 became 3,000. Each payment felt like cutting another tether. My father maintained careful contact. Brief texts acknowledging my existence without demanding anything. I sent him photos occasionally. A sunset over the Pacific. View from my Rome hotel. He responded with short, genuine messages. Beautiful. Stay safe. One day he sent, "Your mother asks about you. I tell her you're doing well." I stared at that before responding. "Thank you for not pressuring me to call her. You're an adult. You get to decide who has access to your life." It was the most he'd ever said about the situation. Acknowledgement, permission, support in the only way he seemed capable. Small, but real. The hard part was my nephew. I thought about him constantly, this kid who'd been taught to humiliate me but didn't understand what he was doing. He was 6 now, starting school. I wondered what version of events his father was telling him about why his aunt disappeared. I bought him dinosaur socks at a duty-free shop in London. Couldn't help myself. They were small and silly, and he'd love them. But they sat in my drawer because I had no way to give them without opening a door I'd worked so hard to close. During a Dubai layover, I wrote him a letter. Not to send now, but to save for later, for when he was old enough to understand without his father's editing. "When you're older," I wrote, "probably a teenager questioning things, I want you to know your aunt loves you. The reason I'm not around isn't because of you. It's because grown-ups in your life made choices that weren't fair, and I had to protect myself. Someday when you're ready, I hope we can talk. Really talk. And I hope you understand that love doesn't mean accepting treatment that hurts you." I sealed it in an envelope, wrote his name, and put it in my safe deposit box. Maybe I'd never give it to him. Maybe by the time he was old enough, it wouldn't matter. But writing it felt important. The car loan deadline came and went. My brother didn't qualify for refinancing, couldn't find a cosigner. The car was repossessed. I learned through my father. The car situation resolved itself. He's taking the bus to his new job. New job. The words felt significant. Maybe hitting rock bottom had finally forced him to stand up. Or maybe it was temporary. Either way, it wasn't my problem anymore. "Good," I responded. That's what needed to happen. My mother tried one more time, sending a letter to my apartment. Actual paper, actual handwriting. It talked about forgiveness and family and how disappointed she was that I'd chosen money over blood. I read it once, then filed it away. Didn't respond, didn't engage. The accusation about choosing money over blood was especially rich coming from someone who'd only reached out after I removed my money from their access. But pointing that out required engaging, and I was done engaging. Between flights, I met crew members for coffee, started accepting invitations to explore cities during layovers instead of just sleeping, walked through Paris parks, toured London museums, ate Singapore street food, remembered that traveling for work could still include moments of joy. One of the crew asked about my family over coffee in Rome. "Don't have much contact anymore," I said. "By choice?" "Yeah, by choice." She nodded like she understood. Sometimes the family you choose is better than the family you're born into. This crew, the people you fly with, we take care of each other. That counts too. It did count. Maybe not in the same way. Maybe not with the same history, but it counted. People who showed up, did their jobs, respected boundaries, and didn't expect you to fund their lives. That was family too. I updated my notebook during a Tokyo flight. The old entries about exploitation were done, complete. The new section was filling up with different things. Month 3. Store card at 2,500. Bought plants and hung photos. Had coffee with crew in 3 cities. Father maintains respectful distance. Nephew's letter written and stored safely. I added one more line, something I'd been thinking about since blocking the last manipulative contacts. Boundaries aren't walls. They're doors with rules about who gets to come through. And I'm finally the one who decides. The plane climbed through clouds into clear sky. 30,000 feet up, everything looked smaller, more manageable. Problems that felt overwhelming from the ground became tiny from here. Just small spots in a much bigger landscape. I'd spent 6 years carrying their weight. And now I was flying free. Still working, still building my life, but building it for myself. Not for someone else's validation or approval or need. Just for me. And that was enough. 6 months later, I sat in a Montmartre cafe with an almond croissant and coffee, watching Paris wake up. I had a 24-hour layover, enough time to actually see the city. The morning was crisp, streets quiet, and I had nowhere to be except exactly here. My phone buzzed. My father. "How's Paris?" "Beautiful," I typed back with a photo. "How are you?" "Good. Your brother kept the job. 3 months now. Taking the bus, complaining less. 3 months. Longer than most of his ventures. Maybe rock bottom had taught him something. Maybe not. Either way, it wasn't my weight to carry. That's good for him, I responded, meaning it. I genuinely hoped he'd figure out how to support his son without using people. The store card was paid off. Final payment 2 weeks ago. I'd celebrated with dinner at an actual Dubai restaurant. the kind with cloth napkins. Sat alone and felt completely content. My apartment had become real home. Plants on windowsills, art on walls, bookshelf with actual books. Good coffee, kitchen supplies, things acknowledging I lived there and not just passed through. The crew had become my community. We met for drinks during layovers, explored cities together. They knew pieces of my story and never pressured for details. One of them, Robin, had become something like a friend. She'd been through her own family estrangement. It gets easier, she'd told me. You stop waiting for them to understand and start building your life without needing their approval. She was right. I'd stopped checking blocked messages, stopped wondering if my mother had figured out what she'd done wrong, stopped hoping my brother would apologize. I'd let go of needing them to validate my choices. My credit score was recovering. Slowly but steadily. The hits from account closures were temporary. In another year, I'd be back where I was before. But this time, my credit was mine alone. I'd started saving again. Not for anyone else's emergency, but for my own goals. Emergency fund first, then retirement contributions I'd had to pause. I was 41, plenty of time to build the life I'd deferred while funding theirs. My nephew's letter remained in my safe deposit box. He was 6.5 now, learning to read, playing soccer according to my father's brief updates. I hoped he was happy. Hoped his father had learned to be present instead of performative. Maybe when he was 16, maybe 20, maybe never. I'd left the door unlocked for a future where he could hear the truth without his father's editing, but I wasn't waiting by that door. I was living my life. My mother had stopped trying to contact me. According to my father, she complained about me to anyone who'd listen, painting herself as victim of an ungrateful daughter. I'd stopped caring what narrative she told. The people who mattered knew the truth. My brother had gotten a job at a distribution warehouse. Early shifts, physical work, actual paychecks. My father said he complained about it being beneath him, but he showed up. That was more than he'd done for anything else in 6 years. The child was in 1st grade, doing well. My father and I maintained our careful relationship. Short messages, occasional photos, respect for boundaries. He never asked me to forgive anyone or fix anything, just acknowledged I existed and let me know he was there if needed. It wasn't the relationship I'd wanted, but it was honest. The freedom was still strange sometimes. Grocery shopping without worrying about card declining because of payments I didn't authorize. Booking hotel upgrades without calculating if I could afford it after covering someone else's bills. Making plans without checking if anyone needed me to cancel for an emergency that wasn't really an emergency. I picked up my croissant, flaky and perfect, took another sip of coffee. The sun was higher now, light spreading across cobblestones. Tourists would arrive soon, but for now it was quiet. My phone stayed silent except for my father's response. Glad you're enjoying it. Be safe. 2 lines that said everything and nothing. Acknowledgement without obligation. Love without strings. I opened my notebook to a fresh page and wrote the final entry. Month 6. All loans removed. Credit recovering. Apartment feels like home. Had croissant in Paris without checking account balance first. Father sends updates without pressure. Brother has kept warehouse job 3 months, taking bus, supporting his son. Mother complains but respects distance. Nephew is 6.5, 1st grade, doing well. His letter waits in safe deposit box for when he's ready. This isn't the family I was born into, but I'm building something better. Sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. I chose myself, and that choice saved me. I closed the notebook and looked out at Paris. This city I'd flown through dozens of times but never really seen. Today I'd walk through gardens, visit museums, eat dinner somewhere I'd always wanted to try. Tomorrow, I'd fly home to my apartment with plants and pictures and peace. I'd spent 40 years learning that family was supposed to come first. That sacrifice was love. That boundaries were selfish. 6 months learning those were lies designed to keep me useful. Now I was learning something new, that I could be both alone and content. That freedom tasted like almond croissant in a Paris cafe. That choosing yourself isn't abandonment, it's survival. That the best view isn't always from 30,000 feet. Sometimes it's from a window seat in Montmartre, watching a city wake up while drinking coffee you bought yourself, with money that's actually yours, living a life you finally get to choose.